If you don't know me, how do you think this is pronounced? I'll let you pause the video and think about it. Did you think Theedee? Did you think feed? Did you use the proper German pronunciation? Something like Theedee? Well, those are all wrong. It's Theedee, at least according to my dad and my grandpa. In spring 2013, I took an arranging class with John Fannin. He's a mentor of mine to this day. He said that with his first arrangement, his company, Fannin Musical Productions, was born. It was that same year my composition professor taught all of us composition students how important it was to sign up as a member of a performance rights organization. In our one-on-one lessons, my other professor, Dr. Mike D'Ambrosio, worked with me on registering with ASCAP, the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. More than 10 years ago, Jacob Theedee Music was born. To join today, it's free as a writer or composer, or you can also do a combination of signing up as a writer and a publisher simultaneously, all free, pro bono, no cost. But back in my day, it cost $50 to register as a writer and another $50 to register as a publisher. So you're out $100 just to register for this performing rights organization. By the way, if you're watching this still, would you please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell notification. I remember in 2015, Todd Reynolds, who's an amazing violinist, came to the school I was at. I was at UNCG, University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And I remember telling him my last name, and his response was, "That's a good composer name." And I was absolutely dumbstruck. It was such a nice thing to say to someone whose last name that was butchered all his life and mispronounced all my life. One of my other composition professors, Brian Sayak, has an entire web page, or at least he used to, dedicated to the many different misspellings on conference talks, concert programs, and emails as well. It was encouraging for me to share in this experience of having a complicated and unpronounceable last name, especially growing up in rural West Kentucky. It was only natural that I would follow in his footsteps and spread the phonetic pronunciation far and wide so that everyone truly knew how to pronounce my last name. However, this did not end my grievances. The matter of reminding people how to spell my last name was completely different matter. For those that I shared how to say my name, first would attempt at something like feed, or another version of Theed with just an E, or Thide, Thide. And then for those who were simply trying to recall how to spell it, often they would put the E before the I, and perhaps they were exposed to other German names like Theedee or Theedee. I even had a professor in my doctoral studies, in an attempt to network me with another professor, write my name in an email as my publisher's name, Theedee. With these grievances, I would go into a sort of buyer's remorse years after naming my publishing company, Jacob Theedee Music. It seemed too silly and unprofessional at that time when I was in my doctorate. Why not something like Rising Phoenix Music or Wash Poppin'? These feelings especially emerged when I began my doctoral work. I didn't know it at that time, but I really entered a time in my life where I was questioning the role of my music's dollar value. I was a kid in a candy shop during my PhD, no doubt, with how much creative freedom I had and academic opportunity that was afforded to me. But at the same time, I constantly questioned whether there should be any financial compensation for the writing, selling, and performance of my music. Even up to my doctoral education, there was little, if any, discussion, research, or education on effective ways to have any compensation for music services. I'd even argue that many of us in our doctoral studies and our master's studies, bachelor's, studying music at a higher level, higher education, many of us would not be able to articulate the difference between an ASCAP royalty and a sheet music royalty. Because of this lack of clarity and stigma around money in contemporary art music, I had thought that not only was my publisher's name foolish, but my pursuit of receiving any other sort of compensation was shameful, or at least inappropriate. Many of my colleagues from my doctorate ventured near and far to receive professorships at various universities. I think that if I were in their shoes now, performance royalties from pros like ASCAP or BMI would be the furthest thing from my mind right now. I finished my doctorate in 2020 at the height of the global pandemic. All performances, at least in physical concert halls, suddenly stopped. We all for a moment forgot about performance rights organizations and instead focused on our sanity. I graduated in my 2-bed, 1-bathroom apartment with a doctorate, a very anticlimactic occasion. And then a month later, I would find myself working 10-hour shifts at Amazon, not knowing that I would be there for an entire year to come, picking items, sorting inventory, standing on my feet 10 hours a day. I wanted to keep the dream alive of being a full-time, somewhat touring musician during the pandemic. And so what I did was I put all my energy into performing live streams, like most musicians did at that time. But as the summer of 2020 ended and the fall began, I really experienced, like many, burnout, and I just really wanted to succumb to a musicalless future. After 10 consecutive years of intense music school, I just wanted a long break. And then from 2020 to today, I've had maybe 2 or 3 performances per year. Performances for which I'm eternally grateful, but they've definitely been on the decline now. Now in 2024, after 4 seemingly long years of musicless vision, I found myself longing for the music community again. I miss so much of the camaraderie I once took for granted. I've had to come to terms with my confidence and lack thereof, and I think I hear God quietly continually telling me to find my confidence in Him once more. Philippians 1:6 says, "Being confident of this, that He who began a good work in you will carry it to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." Maybe it's just growing up, having more years under the belt, experiencing true hardships, but I've come to realize that Jacob Theedee Music is an awesome, unique, and clear name for a publishing company. I've come to realize that I shouldn't make up problems that don't exist. In this case, being in conflict with a name that is really precious to who I am and what I do. I could start fresh, create a funny, clever, thought-provoking publishing name, but isn't that something I already have in Jacob Theedee Music? I think so now. This time in my life, November 2024, I'm ready to reconnect with old friends and create new musical friendships. If you so happen to be a musician watching this video, there's a link to a form in the description. I'd love to connect with you with just a simple hi or hello or something like an email. So please fill it out. I'd like to have more people performing my music in the concert halls. I want to file more performances to ASCAP. And one thing I've been telling my wife is that this time I want my passion for music to guide every step I take and every conversation I make. I want the money to follow the passion and not take its place like it did. And so I really view my publishing name, or just having that publishing name, being part of a performance rights organization like ASCAP, as a structure and a trellis for my music and my passion for music to grow on. When I find the opposite is true, where money is leading the passion, I'll realize that it's time to take a step back and to correct myself and continue with the passions in the right order. After all, I got Augustine's famous quote in the back of my mind that the essence of sin is disordered love. Thanks for watching.